Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to, I guess we'll call it Critic Guys Talking. We're going to be talking about a movie that just came out a couple weeks ago called Muppet Guys Talking. It's Frank Oz's movie where him and a few of the players from Sesame Street and the Muppet Show just got together and shot the shit about working on those shows. And I want to first ask, were you a big Muppets fan?
Yeah.
Growing up?
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, I grew up with all that stuff too. So when this movie came out, I was a little disappointed because when I found the announcement for it, it sounded like they were going to give it away for free if you signed up for the newsletter. But then all of a sudden you get a newsletter saying, well, it costs $10. And I was like, well, still $10. I'm going to watch it because they're giving you a downloadable version.
Okay, so that's how it was released then? It wasn't... I mean, I know it played at South by, but is it playing in, like, select theaters?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
They offered you a download where you actually just got to download the movie as a whole. You could watch it online, and they let you download multiple copies of it, because I downloaded one for you to see that I could send over Dropbox, plus I downloaded the full 1080p version for myself that you could just burn straight onto a DVD and watch it on a DVD player if you wanted.
Just like Norm of the North 2.
Yeah, but people would want to watch this one.
Speak for yourself.
Well, no, you want to review Norm of the North.
True.
Do you really want to watch it? No.
Only so I can review it afterwards.
But no, this movie is a documentary by Frank Oz, and it has 5 people around their little round table. It's Frank Oz, who did Fozzie Bear, Grover Piggy, Jerry Nelson, who did The Count, Mumford the Magician, Harry Monster, Dave Goelz, who was Gonzo and Dr. Bunsen, and they, of course, many of them did many other parts. Fran Brill, who is mostly known for Prairie Dawn and Zoe.
Yeah.
And then Bill Barrett, who was not the original Swedish Chef, but he does it now. And he was also mostly known for Pepe the King Prawn. So he's kind of a younger guy and came in a little later. And I have to say this. I love this movie. I can't say enough good things about it. I have to see it. But I do have a few issues, and I want to see if you had the same issues that I did.
Okay.
My first issue with this movie, it wasn't long enough.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. My issues are very minor. It wasn't long enough. It's only about an hour-ish.
65 minutes long.
And my problem was, before the movie came out, if you signed up for the newsletter, they kept sending you little clips here and there. Some were in the movie, some weren't. And that was fine with that, because you're getting that footage for free, and you get to watch, guys you've admired for years. Yeah. Talk stuff you admired for years.
Yeah.
But then when the movie comes out, it's only an hour long, and what I didn't like is you could buy the $10 version, or there was a $100 version that had another hour's worth of footage.
Really?
And then a bunch of other little perks, and then also, I guess Frank Oz doesn't do a ton of autographs anymore.
Okay.
And they were offering to send you a burned DVD of the movie with his signature on it.
Oh, okay.
Which is still really cool, but do I want to pay $100 for all that stuff? I debated it, don't get me wrong. But I in the end, I'm just like, well, the movie was good enough for me for $10. So that's my first gripe. I mean, you didn't have to deal with that because, you got it from me.
No, this was, my buddy Matt in Chicago saw the movie too and has a quote on it too. And the first I heard of it, though, was you sending it to me. And from the title of it, I kind of got the gist of what it would be. First of all, it looks like I'm your Muppet right now reviewing this. So, no, what the movie is it's certainly an easy movie to watch because it is the 5 of them sitting around, really not unlike we do on like a weekly basis, except we're not, talking about old shows we did.
Well,
or
it's like if
like
you were
that,
sitting around talking about like disco or something.
No, 20 years later.
Just something you worked on. It's like, well, let's talk about it.
20 years later, get a bunch of people together. It'll be like internet guys talking or something like that. It's very intimate. They're sitting around in chairs and they're just having a conversation with each other. It's really all based in one room, and Frank Oz is kind of the moderator of it a little bit. Like, he's the one who's kind of sitting at center. The rest of them are in couches around him, and really they're just shooting the shit. Which, again, like I said, that's what we do all the time and everything. And that was really cool to see that. Like it's certainly a documentary, but it really is also just kind of a conversational piece, really, about them reminiscing about old times, how they came up with certain characters, and also just a really loving tribute to Jim Henson.
Yeah, it's definitely a love letter to him.
Absolutely it was. And it was cool seeing them talk about how they created and found the voices for characters that you and I and millions of other people grew up watching, because I grew up watching this too.
Oh, of course.
Sesame Street all the time, The Muppets, Fraggle Rock as well. I mean, it even got to a point where I would be like fascinated with like the knockoffs. There was one thing I found one time that was called like Safety Frog teaches CPR or something, and it looked like a cracked out Kermit the Frog teaching about safety. And I don't know, stay away from used needles. I don't remember what he was talking about. I saw it in college. But you are right in that I really could have watched them talk about all of this stuff for like another hour. I watched the movie today. I watched it this afternoon. And when I saw that it was 65 minutes, I remember thinking like, well, okay, well that frees up a lot of the rest of my day as well. Like, okay, I guess this isn't like a 3-hour movie or anything. But when it ended, I was like, man, I'll bet you there's a lot of stuff that's just, missing from here. And in my head, I was like, well, okay, maybe there'll be some kind of extended version of it. Maybe they got enough for another movie. Or, just a bunch of deleted conversations and things like that. But really, I could have watched them go on for like another hour. And I didn't realize this until shortly before you came over tonight. This was actually filmed in 2012.
Yeah, they've been working on they talked about it in a lot of the emails and stuff they sent out. They've been working on this, kind of been a passion project for a long time. And Frank Oz just been kind of taking his time on it.
Yeah.
So, there's probably some more recent stories they may have added, being that, you're looking at a 4 or 5 year wait before the movie, more actually, before the movie came out.
Yeah.
So, but still, being that most of the time they're talking about the past, because I don't even remember if they mentioned the newer Muppet movies or anything, because it's been a week or so since I watched it. But they're definitely talking about the old Muppet Show. They talk about Sesame Street. Yeah. They bring up like Fraggle Rock and a little bit. But mainly it's the old stuff and a love letter to Jim Henson, which I'm all about.
It was great just because you got the sense that, like, which you always kind of get this vibe anyway when you see Jim Henson and all these guys work, even the kind of voices that they do. It's really cool watching, like, this is so mellow, man. Like, it's like watching some old hippies reminisce about these Muppets they created and everything.
Because it is a bunch of old hippies.
Yeah, right? Exactly, yeah, the beards and everything. Like, it's great, and it's this total mellow vibe throughout it. And you got to see, like, it isn't just them sitting around in this room. Like, yeah, that's a majority of it, but they do a lot of really clever editing with it, whereas like maybe Frank Oz will be talking about, okay, when I was working the mouth like this, and then it'll kind of like animate over that, and they do that a lot in it, where they'll put in different kinds of animation. There's a lot of old photographs they use too, and certainly old clips. They do a lot of like really cool editing like that to go along with the stories that they're saying. There's even some talking head segments in the movie too, and you do see them like create a Muppet at one point. It's showing them like there's like an assembly of like eyes and noses and things like that, and they're putting those on like a face, and it's great because it's kind of horrifying when you're looking at it, because you grew up with these characters all dancing, singing, talking, making jokes, and then there's Miss Piggy just sitting there like dead.
Well, I love that they showed, they're like, well, Jim Henson would come into the creature shop with a sketch, and it would be like a circle, a triangle, a few circles, and a mouth. And he'd be like, yeah, I want that. And then they would make it, which is really kind of cool. It really shows the talent behind the creature shop, because, they could take, somewhat ramblings of a hippie and and him saying, well, I want this. Yeah. And they were able to make it, he would probably just say, I want this to be blue, this to be orange, and And they would make it, and they did a really good job, and they still do to this day.
Oh yeah, and like the camaraderie and the respect that they had amongst each other as creators, as performers, like there was good. You could tell there was good communication along with them too, because I mean, at this point, these people are like practically family by this point, which I'm sure they've been for decades. And you know, they'd be talking like, well, how about like this voice right here, and someone else will be like, oh, that's similar to this other voice, to this voice that I have for this character. And it was fascinating seeing them talk about how like the number one thing that they get is that people just simply think they're doing the voice.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot more work behind it.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, granted, like a Frank Oz right now, like say, okay, Last Jedi, he did the Yoda.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was doing the puppetry.
Sure.
He may have.
Uh-huh.
But if he didn't, could you blame him? You know? I mean, he's been doing it for how long, you know? Yeah. He's earned it. You know?
Right.
But back in the day, they were down there under the sets.
Oh yeah.
What was that one thing they were showing them? It was the campfire?
Oh,
where they
God,
were,
yeah.
Where they were underground in a circle, all with monitors, all with their hands stuck up. And there's a fire above them that they were saying if it came through the floor, they were all gonna die.
There was like a propane tank or something sitting next to them. They do cool editing with that too, because it'll show that scene where the Muppets are all around in the campfire, and then it'll kind of draw on the shot that shows you where they were underneath it. They do that a lot. Like there are really good stories here, like that have to do with the making of some of these scenes. Like for instance, the opening of the Muppet movie where Kermit's on the log and he's got the banjo. One. Yeah, and Jim Henson is like crouched down in this tank for like several hours and everything.
Like 7 hours?
Yeah, 7 hours or something, and you know it's his passion, and you know you do that. Yeah. Movie sets are hard, you know.
They said he was surrounded by water, crouched in this tank, holding his arm up the whole day, had a monitor watching, you know, trying to animating the whole Kermit thing. They said whenever he was done, they had to basically he couldn't stand up, because he was stuck in the crouch position, and they said he did, but it's like he loved it, so he didn't care.
No, exactly. Movie sets are long and they're hard, you know, especially something like that. And there's even, it gets into the one too about when the Muppets are running and they're climbing up.
Oh, that was so cool.
That pole of that fence.
Scary, but cool.
Yeah, and it was this elevator system that they created with each performer basically on top of each other in this kind of elevator unit. And I'm like, oh, it's so awesome making movies in the 70s.
But they were like,
crazy.
If one breaks, we're all going to die.
We're all flat. We're all fucking flattened. And there was one story that I thought was going to end darker than it did that had, maybe you know which one I'm going to say, that had to do with the archer. There was one part they're talking about, I think was it The Muppet Show or Sesame Street, where they had an archer on there who was going to shoot an arrow through an apple on top of the Muppet's head. I thought this story was going to end with, like, it goes through the Muppet's head or something like that, or it hits someone in the hand. No, it didn't end that. No one got hurt, and no Muppet got it through the head or anything like that. But it was just them talking about how they were just arched down and everything, and like ducking and keeping their hands up. And in a diagram, it shows where his hand is in terms of the Muppet's face and everything. And it even shows you how they'd be standing next to each other if, you know, someone's moving the mouth in one hand and then they have a person next to them moving another hand. Same with whenever someone's in a costume, like Carol Spinney's Big Bird.
You know, I kind of wish they could have got him for this project. That would have been kind of cool to have people. I mean, granted, some of them I'm sure did full body creature work here and there.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were mostly just the puppeteers.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have gotten the perspective of, you know, like Carol Spinney.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about him a little bit, which I liked. But
Same.
It would have been nice to have more of that perspective. But it doesn't detriment the film any.
No, I agree with you that I wish it was longer. But that certainly shows with how much I was enjoying myself at this movie.
Minor gripe for me. Because, it's just I wanted more.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much and could listen to them talk for a 24-hour movie and probably enjoy every minute of it.
Because they have that many stories, I'm sure, that just enough stories that could maybe last about 24 hours. Did you have a favorite Muppet movie growing up?
Not a movie per se, because I kind of like them all. I mean, granted, when they got to that point where they were doing all the made-for-TV stuff.
Oh, yeah, like Muppet Wizard of Oz. And
I really linked myself more, because when it comes to favorite Muppet movies, not the Muppets Most Wanted, but the one before it, the Jason Segel one. Yeah. That one, to me, hit me the most in the heartstrings. Yeah. So I think I would call that my favorite, but don't get me wrong, I love Muppets Take Manhattan and the original Muppet movie. I love those, in their own sort of way. I mean, when you watch weird movies like Follow That Bird.
I love Follow That Bird. And my God.
And I love it too, but it's so weird.
It's so good. Follow That Bird's one of my favorite movies of the 80s. I could still watch that. Like, I grew up on Follow That Bird, and in terms of the Muppet movies, it was always Muppets Take Manhattan that I watched the most. Like, of all the Muppet movies, that's the one I've seen the most times. It's fun. It's 80s as fuck. Yeah. But like it's just fun. It's catchy. It's got the origin of the Muppet Babies in it. Yeah. It was the first one it was the first of the Muppet movies I saw in the theater too. And I still remember seeing it in the theater and going out and renting it not long after that. And Follow That Bird is so goddamn funny. It's so fucking funny. The part in the movie where, because my favorite is Cookie Monster. Cookie Monster is my favorite character. And when Gordon and Olivia have Cookie Monster with them to find Big Bird on this cross-country trip, and he just keeps eating the car through the whole trip. And he's eating Gordon's seat, and Gordon's like, Cookie, if you gotta eat something, go eat Olivia's luggage. Like, Gordon? And then they wheel back into Sesame Street at the end, and they're pushing the car back in there, because Cookie Monster's in the engine, eating it, like, and there's the with Bert and Ernie in the biplane, and they lose Big Bird because they break out into song and distract themselves. It's so funny.
When it comes to my favorite, when it's Muppets, it's Fozzie. And I love the fact that they talked about Fozzie and about the inspiration behind, where he's like, he doesn't have a key to the studio, but he always keeps trying, but he's never going to make it, And the fact that they showed the original voice for Fozzie was way different.
It was way different.
And then I'm a big Grover guy. I love Grover. So if you put I to this day love Grover. I even sang Near Far to my kids growing up with a little stuffed animal. Yeah. And that's still my favorite Muppet song. So I'm a big Grover guy. So anything they talked about Grover and anything they talked about Fozzie was probably my favorite part of this movie.
Grover, my wife watches with me, and Grover's her favorite too. And when I was watching this with her earlier, it really shows you how timeless a lot of this is. Like, Sesame Street's still on the air and everything, and there's still Muppet movies and all of that. But when it was showing sketches from Sesame Street and even the Muppet Show as well, that I grew up with when I was a kid, she did too. Some of the same exact sketches and everything. And my wife and I grew up in different times. So, but it really shows you how timeless a lot of that is. The soup sketch, which was always my favorite, which is always one of my favorites, with the dude having Grover take the suit back and everything. And God, man, I remember like Miami Mice. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Miami Mice, Monster Piece Theater, getting into Sesame Street here. Monster Piece Theater, and parodying the 39 Steps, but it was called the 39 Stairs, with Grover climbing literally 39 stairs, and there was just a brick wall on top of it leading to nowhere. And the Monster Beast Theater, The Sound of Music. They were all just fucking with Grover, every single one of the Monster Beast Theaters. The Sound of Music, and it was just Grover sitting on a mountain, and it came to life and was rocking back and forth and scaring him. Like, that's like, watching this was certainly taking me back to all of that.
Yeah, my only other real gripe about the movie, and again, minor gripe, where they broke for coffee. That was there's a scene, it's near the end, and it kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit because they break for coffee, and you hear Frank Oz say, "We're just going to keep filming, guys." And this is something where they're showing the round table, and you can see the cameras the whole time, and you can see that the camera guys are trying not to laugh too loud because it'll pick up on the mics. And they break for coffee, and I thought maybe something really interesting was going to happen during it, but nothing really happened. You know? So it just kind of took me out of the movie for a moment. And then they got right back into it because they went and sat back down. Yeah. It's like, oh, hey, do you need anything? Okay, here's some coffee. And that's it. You know, it did, like you said, it was a minor thing. But
sure. I honestly didn't mind that. I would have maybe appreciated it more if it was a longer film. Like, when it actually happened, I was like, okay, you don't see that too much in a movie like this, where they still kind of keep the camera rolling in a moment like this. So I enjoyed that about that moment. I wish there was maybe more of that, especially if it was like a 90-minute film. Like, say, for instance, showing them talking while the cameras are setting up, or while the lights are setting up, or even maybe when they're taking things down at the end. Keeping cameras rolling in moments that usually they don't do that in a movie like this. So I honestly wish they did more of that. But I didn't mind that part.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Yeah. You know, but I'm just like, oh, something is going to happen. Like, you know, it just felt like it didn't go anywhere to me. Like I said, it does not ruin the movie. But you're listening to their stories, and all of a sudden it's like, we're going to break for coffee, guys. Uh-huh. Oh, is this where I go get a drink too? You know?
I guess I'm going to take a shit now.
But you know, and this is something I want to ask you about and see what your thoughts on the part where they asked Fran, where they were saying she was saying I was one of the boys. Oh, I'm curious your thoughts on that because, you know, it sounded maybe like they were dancing around something. I don't think they had anything ever happened with her. Uh-huh. But it almost like they felt like they had to address that she was a part of the boys' club.
Sure.
But I don't know. I didn't think anything bad about it.
No.
But it was just weird because she's just like, basically she's like, you know, I just put up with that stuff. You know, she's like, I knew they were just being stupid.
Sure.
You know, it was just kind of, it came off a little uncomfortable for a second. You know, but because I was wondering where they were going to go with it.
I wasn't uncomfortable when I was watching that. I thought it gave interesting insight there, especially doing a show like this in the 1970s, and you have or really honestly a lot of sets where like people are just goofing off back and forth, and there's some raunchy jokes that get said and stuff and things like that. I could have used more of that conversation, certainly, but I could say that about a lot of conversations in this that I could use more of. It was the interesting insight that I got out of that moment was when she said, like, I never really she goes, I never really considered myself to be one of the guys, really. And then you see Frank Oz go, like, really? How come? So I liked that moment because you could see in Frank Oz's expression and in his eyes that him and the rest of them do consider her one of the guys and everything. And I know that that's how we all, okay, on midnight screenings, you know, it's kind of a sausage fest, really. But that's how, you know, Sarah's one of my best friends.
She comes in there and holds her own.
Yeah, exactly. And we can, not that we all sit around and think of ourselves, we're just the guys, you know, not really like that, but we don't think of Sarah as like, she's the girl. She's the girl in the group or anything like that. No, we're all together. We're all one. The guys, or however you want to put it, and everything. Sarah can be raunchier than we can.
Well, it seems like that scene with her was probably just trying to say that, you know what, yeah, they were goofy, a little raunchy in the past, but damn it, you don't have to take it so damn serious.
No,
you know?
not,
it's
not
like,
at
you know
all.
what, she just rolled with the punches, and
Yeah.
and they were just being stupid and weird and
Yeah.
having a good time, where it doesn't all have to be, you know, Holly weird is all bad in the past, you know what I mean?
No, there's certainly a difference between, look, it's a movie set, things might get a little raunchy here and there. There's a difference between, yeah, just some raunchy humor on set and straight up harassment,
Yeah.
you know?
So yeah, I didn't think it just for a second I was like, I wonder what they're going to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Are they bringing up somewhere? Oh, they're just saying that, yeah, it doesn't all have to be weird guys. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
all have to be, you know, yeah, we were a ton of dudes, but we respected her like she's just one of us.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. So.
Yeah, yeah. You never got the vibe that it was that someone shows up like, check it out, my dick. Like, you know, like, okay.
I mean, I've seen more behind the scenes footage of them. There's some Sesame Street footage. I don't know, it's been 10 years ago or so, where they were showing between takes. And this was, I think, back around, I mean, Kevin Clash was still with them before he got in trouble.
Maybe that's why it's only an hour long.
Well,
the rest of it had Kevin Clash.
Well, that's just it. You would imagine if he wouldn't have gotten in trouble, he probably would have been in this group too. I mean, he's probably would be considered, at the time, one of the most famous.
He has a documentary about him, Being Elmo or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and that was, of course, before he got in trouble.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm glad and regardless of all that stuff that happened with him, let's say it didn't, I'm glad there was really no Elmo in there, because there's not an Elmo guy.
Yeah.
Elmo's the Jar Jar of the Muppet universe. Like, Elmo, sure, Elmo came in after my time, really. I say that, but really, like, as adults, the Muppets is still hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, there is plenty of adult humor in it. They even say in the documentary, like, oh, we were mostly writing this for adults. It wasn't like we were writing a kids show and everything. But Elmo, though, and I realize it was on Sesame Street, and that's certainly more kid friendly than like the Muppet Show, really. But yeah, Elmo was just every annoying, just cutesy, kitty, cynical crap character that I was glad wasn't part of Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Like, that was always a character that I would attribute to another kids show that I didn't watch. And then suddenly it's here on Sesame Street, and it's Elmo's this huge blow up. There's the Tickle Me Elmo thing. He's got his own movie and everything. And I realize Elmo is designed for real little kids.
Yeah.
But even if I was that little when Elmo got big, that is not a character I would have enjoyed. I would have felt like I was being condescended to.
Yeah, my son liked him, or likes him. And I'm okay with that. I always have to tell him, don't talk like Elmo, because Elmo, and I hate to say this about Cookie Monster, not teaching you to speak right. But, but you know, as long as your kids know, you know, don't talk like that, you know, you can enjoy the character, you know. Kevin Clash, though, I think maybe he would have been at the table. Would the conversation have been dominated by Elmo, because Elmo dominated Sesame Street for so long, and still, in a way, doesn't as much anymore on the HBO stuff.
Okay.
They still do a little bit of Elmo's World, and he's still there at times, but they use pretty much anyone they can.
Yeah.
A lot of Murray now. He does a lot of introing the show and stuff. He's gotten kind of popular.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Clash still would have been there, and he still probably would have had stories, because he was around there for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I bought, it was something like the Sesame Street from this year to this year, like this box set. And I remember seeing a clip of an old sketch, and there's Elmo in the background just talking normal, right?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't the toddler yet. So it's like he was a Muppet long before he became Elmo. So I think he probably would have had some stories to share.
Yeah.
Would it have dominated the documentary? I don't know.
You could also just watch...
I'd be afraid it would. But yeah, there is that. It is Being Elmo.
Yeah, you could also just watch his documentary, which I'm sure is probably... I'm sure it's probably, regardless of how I feel about that character, it's probably still a fascinating documentary. And it is, as much as Elmo always annoyed me, I mean, it was on Sesame Street, so you're probably still learning something with it. But, no, Elmo, that Muppet is in Follow That Bird.
Yeah.
It's near the end when the big bird comes back and you see the Elmo puppet peek out the window at one point. And again, it's like regular like monster voice, like Big Bird's back, you know, like and not what he turned into.
No, I remember seeing that movie. It's been a long time. I saw it like when it first came to digital or first DVD or whatever year it was. I don't remember. It's a good singular movie, speaking about that singular guy and mostly that singular character. Mm-hmm. So it's good. I still recommend this one way more.
Then Follow That Bird?
No, than the Being Elmo.
Okay.
Because you get more of a wide range of characters. You get more of a wide range of perspective. You get more story. I mean, in Being Elmo, they did talk about Jim Henson. Yeah. But this, you get a lot of Jim Henson. And of course, as guys like us that have just admired the hell out of him. Yeah. You get so many great stories about him that I'm sure you're going to say the same thing. Highly recommend. I don't know if it's even still available on digital. I think you can still get it. I know they extended that $99 thing for guys like me that bought the $10 one. They're like, well, we'll cheapen it $10 for you if you want it.
Sweet.
And like I said, I'm tempted. I don't think I could do it, but I imagine eventually it'll probably show up on a Netflix or even just on some streaming service like Vudu or Microsoft Store or whatever you use. But if you get a chance to see it, if you love Muppets, I will not... I mean, my minor flaws aside, it's worth whatever you pay or don't pay to see it. I highly recommend it.
I highly recommend the movie, too. I did have a lot of fun watching this. It was fun watching them just, like, talk and have a conversation, like, out of just being natural, really, out of character and outside of, like, any kind of movie promotional interview or things like that. It had a real natural, organic feel to it. And I appreciated that about the movie. So I do highly recommend it. Like, it's certainly a movie that appeals to me and you as well, having grown up with all of these characters. But even outside of that, it is just a really, really damn good watch.
Well, what's cool is they even mention that, we've never really done this before. We've had interviews and things like that, and maybe two of us together or something. They said we never really sat around and done this. Mm-hmm. And it's a great idea. Frank Oz had a great idea. And like I said, I can't recommend it enough. And
now we need to do the same thing, but with the cast of Safety Frog. And let's throw in like Eureka's Castle and
oh wow, I forgot about that show.
Pinwheel in there as well.
as long as you don't knock Bear in the Big Blue House, because my son loves that show and I love that show too. So.
We'll get it with Oogie Loves as well.
Oh God,
sweet.
Yeah, you're gonna end this on Oogie Loves.
I end everything with Oogie Loves.
Well, anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoy this. Check out the movie if you get a chance. For the Cinema Snob, I'm the real Geno. This has been Critic Guys Talking. See you later.
See ya.